Thank you for meeting with me this morning. I'm happy to be here with you. In answer to your first question, what drew you to the early childhood profession? I would have to say that the teachers that I had drew me. I had some wonderful teachers who took the time with me to work with me, to help me grow and develop love for learning. And I also had some not so great teachers who showed me that a teacher who was burned out could potentially make even the most interesting topic not interesting. One of those teachers, when I spoke to him about potentially becoming a teacher, said to me, "Don't do it. It's not worth it." And so I was even more challenged because I really felt like this was something I wanted to do. So I got my first teaching job, which was at the high school level. And I taught English, journalism, PE, and I coached every woman's sport that they had at the time. And I loved it. And I loved getting to know the kids and seeing what an impact I could have on their lives. But then, through being with students over the course of a few years, I saw that I wasn't having the impact I wanted to have by dealing with alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and teenage pregnancy. I realized that this was not my calling. So then my husband and I decided to start our family, and we had our first child, and I did a lot of reading, as most new parents do, and I discovered the works of Louise Bates Ames and Frances Ilg, and their interest in the Gazelle developmental philosophy. And it all clicked for me, and I saw the development of a young child's brain and how exciting it could be, and how what we do impacts the rest of their lives so tremendously. And I knew that I wanted to do that, so I began taking classes at UCLA here. And then I further was impacted by their really good preschool teachers. And I watched and I learned from them. And so I became a preschool teacher. And I spent 20 years there, moving up to assistant director for 17 years and then director finally. And I really loved every aspect of being in an early childhood setting. We were a parent cooperative, and that was probably the most impactful and most meaningful part of my experience. It might have also been the most challenging at times, but I saw that the impact a relationship between a teacher and a parent has further impacts the child, and that if I worked with parents and was able to give them information and support, they became better parents. And that was so powerful to me that I knew I was in the right field. Your next question is, what do you consider to be your chief responsibility as an early childhood professional? And I have three parts to my answer for this. My first responsibility, I believe, is to keep children safe and secure. I think that needs to be every teacher's first responsibility. Parents are entrusting you with their most precious possession, their most precious part of their lives. And they need to know that you understand how precious those children are, and that you will do everything you can to be vigilant, to be careful, to always be watchful, and make sure your environment is safe and healthy and a great place for children to be. And in addition, that you will also support that child with positive and encouraging words and actions to make their child feel good about being in school. I also feel very strongly about creating and maintaining a very strong positive relationships between the child, the teacher, and their family or caregivers. I feel very strongly about frequent and open communication in all forms, whether it be verbal and face-to-face, hands-on, or newsletters, emails, phone calls, texts, photos, whatever you can do to maintain support from the family and engage the family in the school environment will make it a better experience for the child. And finally, I would say as a professional, I feel like it's my responsibility to keep up with the education and research in our field in order to expand what I do and make myself a better teacher. When I started over 20 years ago, there was a, an amount of knowledge and practice in the early childhood field that was great and very helpful. But when I went back to Walden to work on my Bachelor of Science, I realized that there was so much more from the 90s, from the aughts, that has been learned and developed and researched, that I'm regretful that I didn't have this information, because I feel like I would have been such a better teacher. Question number 3, what is the role of collaboration in professional practice? First, I'm going to address collaboration with other professionals. When I started teaching, if I did not have the support of my fellow teachers, I don't know what I would have done. I relied on them so heavily for ideas, for support, for guidance, for commiseration, for a shoulder to cry on sometimes, and for understanding, and for their mentoring of me as a new teacher. I had a teacher basically just give me everything she had in the way of research, lesson planning, ideas, support. That woman got me through my first year of teaching. And so when it was my turn to be that person, I felt very passionately about being that mentor to other teachers. I think collaboration between teachers is vital. And I think collaboration between professionals is vital. We spent a lot of time when I was working going to other conferences through NAEYC, and in California, CAEYC, and even in our San Gabriel Valley, we have a small chapter of parent participation nursery schools. And collaborating with those other professionals opened my eyes to new ideas, new philosophies, and new ways of doing things, and helped me think outside the box. And I think if you're a professional, part of being a professional is being open to change. And that's what really inspired me. The other part of collaboration that I am most passionate about is the collaboration between home and school, or teacher and families, caregivers, parents. That to me is like breathing. Working in a parent cooperative for 20 years, I was face to face with a different parent every day in the classroom, different types of personalities, different levels of parenting. Maybe it's their oldest child, maybe it's their only child, maybe it's their youngest. And I learned so much about their parenting styles. I learned so much, most of all, about their own children. Because I do believe, and we say it all the time, that parents are the child's first teacher. They are the most important teacher. And working together with parents gave me so much insight on why children behave the way they do. And sometimes it's just an offhand comment that a parent makes about, oh, we're moving, or I have a new baby, or my husband lost his job, or grandma passed away. And you're wondering, why is this child acting out? What is this behavior from? And you realize this is what it's from. And had you not had that insight from that parent, you wouldn't know how to respond in the way that best helps that child. So for me, the collaboration between teacher and parent is what makes you or breaks you as a teacher. Question number 4, what strategies do you routinely utilize to ensure that you are critically reflecting on your own growth as an early childhood professional? Well, I question myself constantly. I reflect. I do a lot of reading. I am on the NAEYC website constantly. I take classes. I go to conferences. I talk with other professionals. I ask myself honest questions about, did what I create today in the classroom impact children in a positive way? Did I engage children? Did I let them be the driving force of what is happening in my classroom? I think you have to be able to think outside the box and not get stuck in I did it last year and it worked. I did it 10 years ago and it worked. You have to be able to say, what's new out there that I would like to try? And then move forward from there and see what you gain from it. I do so much reading. I probably purchase way too many books. And I feel like if I gain one thing out of a book, then it's well worth it. And most of all, I continue my education. Um, you can't learn too much in this field. And I am so grateful for the experience I've had with Walden in this learning experience. It's changed my life. And although I am retired now, I know that it's made me a better grandmother. So that's wonderful. And hopefully, if I'm able to mentor other teachers, I feel like I'm going to be able to offer them some insight just because of what I've learned, what I've experienced, and what I continue to learn. Question number 5. Briefly describe an issue that might be the focus of current or future advocacy efforts. My advocacy issue right now, probably based on the pandemic we're experiencing, is vaccine hesitancy. As my experience in being a director showed me, we had a lot of parents who wanted to opt out of vaccines and enroll their children based on religious or moral or philosophical differences. And we were really in a quandary with this circumstance because it's a slippery slope. I am completely supportive of all vaccine hesitancy or non-vaccinated children due to medical reasons. Don't get me wrong. That's absolutely acceptable. But I feel like there are parents and caregivers who have an idea based on vaccinations cause ADHD or whatever type of, they say that, well, there's so many diseases that are eradicated from the face of the earth that we don't need to vaccinate against polio. Well, we do need to vaccinate against polio. There is polio in our culture right now. So, especially with this new situation with the coronavirus, I feel like there are going to be parents who are going to be frightened about vaccinating their children for this once a vaccine is developed. And I feel like, number one, we need the research to make sure it's a safe vaccine. But number two, how are we going to open our schools and how are we going to allow children back in who are not vaccinated? We do have children that attend school who are on task, on target to receive their scheduled vaccinations, but haven't yet due to age. And we have children enrolling who have chosen not to vaccinate and are exposing children to potential viruses and diseases. And that's a very dangerous thing. So that's my advocacy issue currently. Why is advocacy a hallmark of professionalism in the early childhood field? Because as early childhood professionals, we have the knowledge to know why we need to stand up for things, whether it be inclusion, child abuse, anti-bias, gender identity, special needs. We have a responsibility to raise awareness to these important issues in our field, to inform public policy, to support and advocate for it, to engage our families, our schools, our communities in this. We need to uphold ethical guidelines, and we need to use our knowledge to think critically about our profession in order to inform our practices. So that's my soapbox. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I enjoyed it. I appreciated it. And have a good day.